Nostalgia is a powerful thing.
You know, nostalgia is denial.
So the PlayStation Classic got announced. After looking into some of the older PS1 titles, some of the most revered ones, and the best sellers and whatnot, I started to really think about how they would be today. You know, the truth is, PlayStation 1 games are from the 90s, the late 90s, and they're from a time when graphics and control layouts and gameplay and everything was just different. The gaming industry is not like the film industry. You see, you can watch a movie from the 50s and really enjoy it right now in 2018, and it can still hold up quite well. You can play a video game from as recent as like mid-2000s, and that can feel old. And that's just because the gaming industry and mechanics just continue to evolve. It's a relatively young industry in terms of media, but it's always fresh, and new things are always being implemented, seeing as games play differently in 2018 than they did in 2013 even, comparing like the PS4 to the PS3. Going back to a PS1 title might be harder than you think. The problem is a lot of those great PlayStation titles, the classics that most likely will be on this little PlayStation Classic when it launches in December, are going to be games that feel old, especially if you've already played their sequels and whatnot. They continue to just remake and remaster everything, you know? The gaming industry, just like with films, for example, is always going to thrive on sequels.
Avengers!
But also publishers and developers love to remake their old games and bring it back to the modern day to make money because they're running on nostalgia, but they're also appealing to a new age.
Come on! I'll be there!
I'm sure you beat me here.
Titles like Tomb Raider, for example, look at that. It's been rebooted a couple of times, but the reboot trilogy, which actually just got its ending of the trilogy in Shadow of the Tomb Raider just a few days ago.
You need to trust me.
You can check out one of my other videos prior to this about why you should check that game out. I'm going to start talking about Shadow of the Tomb Raider, why you should be excited, why it's such a big game, and why you should stop sleeping on it if you're already doing so. Well, Tomb Raider is for modern day now with Tomb Raider 2013, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider, but there's a bunch of Tomb Raider games in the past, not just on the original PlayStation, but on other platforms too, including like the Wii. So yeah, those games exist, but you're not really going to play them that much now and enjoy them.
Our crew is scattered. I have a bad feeling about this. I've got to find them.
And maybe you will check them out and you'll probably end up being a little disappointed or just confused and bothered and frustrated because mechanics change. So Tomb Raider is just one franchise out of plenty that have gotten the modern day treatment in recent years. Another one is Crash Bandicoot. That's a PlayStation title that is extremely revered. A lot of people loved it on the PlayStation. And its sequels, Crash 2, Cortex Strikes Back, and Crash 3 Warped, are apparently considered to be even better and better with each installment, whereas 3 is widely considered to be the best. I played through all 3 Crash Bandicoot games on the PS4. Actually, I just beat them literally like 2 months ago and absolutely adored them. I adored the Insane Trilogy on the PS4, that is. I never played the originals on PlayStation, and quite frankly, I couldn't be less interested in that, especially because of how they would ultimately play and look so old and just not feel right in the modern day. If they never made the Insane Trilogy, sure, it was on my bucket list of games that I want to try out, but after they made that, forget about it. The same can be said for Spyro the Dragon. Coming out in November. Originally, it was actually supposed to be out by now, but Spyro the Dragon is getting its trilogy remade as well on modern consoles for the PS4 and Xbox One. No Switch, unfortunately. At least not yet. Spyro the Dragon is another PlayStation classic, kind of similarly talked about in the same conversation as Crash. Insomniac's Spyro games, like Naughty Dog's Crash Bandicoot games, have their remake on current-gen consoles and make the old ones obsolete. I mean, I'm not going to go play Spyro on PS1 or on this PlayStation Classic or even just like in any means of getting my hands on that if I can play it in nice, crisp HD with improvements on just the control scheme and layout and just how it looks and plays and feels overall on my PS4 right now in 2018.
You're toast!
So Crash and Spyro, two loved PS1 classics. Should you put them on the PlayStation Classic? Of course, we don't know what games are going to be on there yet, but if that was the case, if we got them, I feel like it would only be fun for a few minutes to just test it out and kind of compare. And then ultimately, wouldn't they just feel weird and old? I mean, they're going to show their age. It's inevitable. It's not a bad thing, but it is just the truth of how it works. So you can play Crash and Spyro on PS4. Just wait till November for Spyro. Another title that I know that people love from the original PlayStation is Resident Evil and its sequel Resident Evil 2. Widely considered to be one of the best, specifically on that console as well. You already know where I'm going with this because you know Resident Evil has been remade more than once. But the current console generation had a remake of Resident Evil, which is fantastic by all accounts. So you're not going to go play the clunky old version of Resident Evil that just doesn't look that great at all and feels so old in its gameplay and whatnot when you can play a nice remake.
You were almost a Jill sandwich.
But Resident Evil 2 is actually one of the biggest games coming out next year. It was huge at E3. The hype surrounding Resident Evil 2 when it was announced at the PlayStation E3 press conference or show was insane.
What is the hypest moment? What was the Easy Allies' huge hype moment?
Leon Kennedy busting through the door in Resident Evil 2. It is real. It is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So Resident Evil 2 is getting a remake coming out in January, and there's your reason to play that. And there's your reason not to play it if it's going to be on the PlayStation Classic. If you're going to get a nice remake, which takes elements from the newest Resident Evil and Resident Evil 7, and also elements of Resident Evil 4, which is often considered to be one of the best in the series, and then combine those elements into Resident Evil 2 in a nice, polished remake, why would you ever go play a PS1 game?
Jesus Christ.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the PS1 titles. I have the utmost respect for gaming in general and how it's evolved over the years. I truly love NES and SNES games, and I think that Nintendo has done something with those that makes them age more well. Not all of them, but a decent amount of them. More than these old PlayStation titles. Probably because of the fact that they were 2D titles, and the PlayStation 3D games, that's hard because it was a big step, but also 3D titles just got better and better, and now those look old.
The graphics are terrible.
But they also don't necessarily play that well, so that's how I feel about it. PlayStation games, what do you guys think? What do you want to see on the PlayStation Classic? Which games do you miss the most, and are you most nostalgic for? If you're not super nostalgic like me, for example, are you even going to buy it? Because right now, I don't think it's for me. Be sure to let me know in the comments below. Like I said, talk about what games you want on the PlayStation Classic, whether or not you're actually going to buy this thing, what can justify your purchase. Let's talk in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed this little discussion. Thank you so much for watching.